guys, Diane here, and today I'm going to be doing my top most disturbing books I've read so far. We've got a lot of dark, disturbing material, grotesque books that you may or may not want to check out. So hit that like and subscribe button and we'll get into it. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this list for so long. I have a lot of disturbing content in all of my books, on Audible, on my shelf. Pretty much everything I read, there's going to be something disturbing in some sort of way in every book. But these to me just stood out in the way they did it, or to me, their uniqueness, I guess, of the drama. So, and some of these I will be doing just a tiny bit of a spoiler to kind of give you an example of why I thought it was so disturbing or what really made it stick in my mind. But I'll leave a thumbnail so that way you can fast forward it if you want to, if you're really taking this more as a recommendation video than a warning. So we'll get into it. But so the first book I have is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt, and this is kind of what it sounds like. It's about a patient, and it's about his doctor who's basically trying to fix him. Very brief synopsis. That's basically all you need to know. And I think the reason I found this so disturbing and so kind of upsetting is that this patient can really put thoughts into your mind and kind of get you to do things you wouldn't want to do. He's making people commit suicide. He's making people do just grotesque things to other people. And he's making them think that it's something they want to do. So that part was really really upsetting to me. And there's this one particular part where this might be a little bit of a spoiler. It's so, if you want to fast forward, but he is in a room with another patient, and this patient is already damaged. They've already been through so much in their life, and he's maybe 10 years old. And the reason he's in there, something has driven him mad. Some horrific, grotesque abuse has driven him mad, and he thinks he's gotten away from it. He thinks he's safe at the hospital. He thinks everything's going to be okay. Much less does he know that he's put into an enclosed room at night when there's really, no one else around, to just be victimized yet again, and to just see the terror, and to hear the screaming, to feel the terror, and to feel the traumatization that this kid is going through is just absolutely devastating. So this book, there's just so much in here. I could give example after example, but that one I think is the one that stuck with me the most, because it's just so grotesque and it's so sad. But this book was really good. It just blew me away the first time I read it. So if you're really looking for something like that, and it's a really short read too, so you're not going to, it's just something that you can fly through. So, and then next we have The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. And if you've been on my channel, you've kind of heard me talk about this book here or there, kind of randomly mentioning it. But this is a book about a family of sorts, and they kind of serve this figure called the father. And kind of like, yet again, a brief synopsis, it's very brief, but that's the gist of the book, is this really sadistic kind of, I guess, unique family that serves the father. And in this book, it's from the very beginning, you can kind of tell that it's going to be a unique book. It's going to be different. It's not your run-of-the-mill horror, and it's almost kind of dabbles in fantasy as well. There's kind of a thriller aspect where you're kind of chasing a killer also. So there's a lot of different things. A lot of things almost seem random, but the more you go, the more you're kind of realizing that somehow these pieces are going to fit together. You're just not really sure. But there's a lot. There's animal cruelty, incest. There's just nastiness abounding in this book. I think and I don't know if I would really consider this a spoiler, but if someone says that to me, I'm like, I consider it a spoiler. If I haven't read the book, it's going to be a spoiler. But so there's one particular part in this book where they have this, it's almost like not a grill, but a smoker. You put something in there, you shut the door, and you smoke meat or whatever. But this one is really more for people. So you have this person that's being punished for whatever they've done, whatever offense they've committed, and they have this whole ceremony, and they have to walk to the smoker, the people smoker, and they have to walk in there. They have to get in, and it's not on fire when they get in, but they light it from the outside, so it's gradually getting hotter. And it's all made out of, like, I think bronze or something like that. And it's heating up, and the heat is just encompassing. I can just imagine being in there. It's encompassing you, and you're, coughing, and it's hot, and it's, you're burning just from the inside out, and they're screaming and crying, and people are just out on the outside, like, smelling their meat sizzling. It's just, this book is in a league of its own, honestly. But with that being said, it is a really good book. It's very unique. It's definitely something that you're not going to find in a lot of other books. The way that he's written this book is just phenomenal. It's just really good. Okay, so next we have Kin by Keelan Patrick Burke. And this is a story about, as you can tell from the name, this is a story about a cannibalistic family, and they prey on people who kind of cross their paths. So there's a young woman and her friends that have crossed their path, and she actually makes it out alive, so that it kind of turns into a revenge story after that. But I think, to me, the most disturbing, of course, it's disturbing of cannibals. Yeah, that is disturbing. But I think the most disturbing part to me was just their family dynamic and the generational trauma that is just progressed into something so disgusting and so wrong and just so hurtful to everyone involved, that it's not even, they don't even know, like, they don't know what a healthy, like, family would be. They don't know what a healthy relationship would be. They don't know how to even connect with someone on a genuine level without either wanting something or wanting something, in return. So I think that was, like, one of the saddest things. There's a lot of incestuous relationships in this book. There's a lot of, obviously cannibalism. There's, like, rape and sodomy and just, like, anything you can imagine. And the most disturbing part is it's within the family. This isn't necessarily things that they're doing to other people. They're doing it to each other too. It's not just for other people. So this book is just down and dirty and gross, but it is a really good story. It's very dark and disturbing, but it adds to the story. It's not grotesque and horrific just for the sake of being gross. It does add to the story, and it does give you a satisfaction in the end, to where you do kind of feel like you've had some revenge, and that you've gotten some satisfaction to, you almost got even, not quite, but you almost got even. So, and then we have Brother by Anya Alborn, and this is kind of along the same lines as Kin. This is about a cannibalistic family who kind of prey on young women mostly, and it's about the relationship of the two brothers within the family. And this is also, a very twisted and just horrific family relationship that's been so distorted that, you could barely call it a family. It's just crazy. And this book, there's so many, for me to pick out an example, I really kind of struggled with, like, which one. And like I kind of said in the beginning, there's going to be some spoilers, but at the end of this book, first, this dude's brother makes him kiss his sister, makes out with his sister. Then he makes him eat his mom. And then, what are you going to think of next? Like, Anya Alborn is crazy. This girl is wild, but I'm here for it. And this book was so good. This might be one of my favorite Anya Alborn books. I don't know. It's between this and Seed, but we'll get into that another time. So, but moving on, we have The Deep by Nick Cutter. And this book is nasty. So this book is about two brothers yet again, and there's kind of a plague on the planet, or on Earth. There's a plague that has kind of broken out, and one of the brothers is he's trying to find a cure, but he's deep in the Mariana Trench because they're trying to find a cure with, science stuff down there. I don't know. And this book is just so twisted. If you've read any Nick Cutter books, you already know his style. It's going to be gross, and you're going to, like, feel the trauma. You're going to be in it. You're going to feel the guts. You're going to, smell the smells. It's just the way that he portrays things is so realistic, and the way that he makes you feel like you're actually, like, visualizing and you're seeing all these things is just crazy. But I think some of the realizations that you're coming to with the brothers and their relationship with their mother, I think that was probably one of the most disturbing parts of the book, is the relationship with one of the sons and their mother, and how distorted it was, and how incestuous it was, and how just downright disgusting it was. I almost feel that was worse than the body horror that is in this book. And I think some of the body horror in this book is probably some of the most intense body horror that I've ever read or ever listened to, because I listened to this on Audible, and I felt so secluded. I felt it was almost like how you would think you would feel like you're in space. You're so just all alone. Nothing matters. Nothing you've ever done in your life matters. Everything is for naught. You know, you're basically just here for absolutely no reason. And it's just a devastating book. So if that sounds like a good time to you, you might want to check it out. But, you know, like I said, it's Nick Cutter. So you kind of know with Nick Cutter, you're going to get some demented storytelling. And next we have The Devil of Nanking by Mo Hader. And this book, I really love this book. So book is about a young woman. She goes to Japan. She links up with a professor, and they're both looking for film footage that is supposed to have captured the massacre of the Nanking massacre. And so the story just kind of progresses from there. She is working at a brothel trying to get information on this tape, and it's kind of like the seedy underground of Japan. And you know, you have kind of a crime boss, but this story is just chocked full with devastating detail after devastating detail. But it's also such a beautiful story, and the way she's telling it, and the way you really feel for these characters, and the way that you're hurting along with them. I think that's probably the saddest thing about this book, is that it is so like visceral, and it's so like real. It really feels like these are real people. I think this would be a really hard one to kind of pick just one example, but I think I have one in mind, but I think the one that I'll use is so this is definitely a big spoiler. So just in case you haven't read this, I really wouldn't want to spoil this entire book for you, but come to find out at the end, what they're looking for is this crime boss. They end up tracking him down, this crime boss, and they do find the tape. But the reason the professor is so invested in this is because the crime boss, when they were younger, he was like a general, or he was a soldier in the army during the Nanking massacre, and he actually cut the unborn baby out of his wife's stomach and kind of dried it out and put it in like a bottle or something. And he's been eating it for all these years. And this lore has kind of surrounded him, saying that he has the secret to life, the secret to longevity, when really it's a baby that you dried out and have been eating on for like 20 years. So that's probably the most disturbing part, was just the forethought of all these things culminating into just horrific ending. So, but this book is beautifully told. It's so good. And the payoff for all that distortion and all this disturbing content really is really good for this book. So I would definitely, hopefully I didn't ruin anything if you were going to read it. And then we have Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. And this book, I've talked about it so much on this channel. It's one of my favorite books. So this is about a woman. She has this relationship with a serial killer, and he has sent her on kind of an errand for her to go get something. And she goes with her sister and kind of gets lost in the woods. But this story is so sad, and I think the worst thing about this book was you kind of saw where it was going, and you were just hoping and praying that that's not where the book was going to take you, that it was just leading you somewhere and it was going to be a dead end and you were just going to take a hard left, but it doesn't. It takes you there. And I don't know. I just think this book, the way that it was told and the way that, they kind of go on this journey, but you're almost starting to hate the main character so much. And then once you figure out that she not only raped and was the cause of her brother's death, she also tried to kill her fucking sister when she confronted her about it. And so this is just the most demented story almost I don't know if it's the most demented on this list, but it's up there. So, but this book is well worth the read, and I would definitely tell you to check this book out. And then we have, let's see, then we have The Child Finder by Renee Dunfield. And this book is about a young girl. She's looking for a Christmas tree. Her and her family are like, I think it's in Oregon. They're kind of out in the woods. And they're looking for a Christmas tree. And she goes missing in this, vast forest. And so fast forward, they've been looking for her. They can't find her. And so they hire the Child Finder, which is a private investigator. And you're going through two separate timelines. You're going through what the young girl is going through, and then you're with the child finder who's piecing things together and who's trying to find her. But as you're going through all these things that this poor girl is going through, she has kind of escaped into a kind of like a childlike, fantasy land while she's going through this traumatic situation. But I think the most devastating and the most disturbing part is her, in her little mind, how she is trying to cope with what's happening to her, and so how she's kind of viewing it. So you're seeing how she's viewing it, but you know what's happening. So I think that's the saddest part, is just trying to see her come to terms with what is happening and will she survive and how this is going to affect her the rest of her life. So that is a really devastating book, but it's so good. The Child Finder is amazing. And then we have The Enchanted by Renee Dunfield. And this book is about a prisoner. He's on death row, and it's about him, but it's also about the woman who's trying to kind of prolong his life and to get him off death row, just get life in prison or whatever. And then she's kind of working with the priest, and they're both collectively trying to help him. And so she's kind of going back into his life and investigating his past life, his parents and his grandparents, and what brought him to become who he became. And you don't really learn. They don't go into a whole lot of detail of exactly what he did. It's enough detail to where you realize, okay, he probably deserves death row. But then once you're learning about all these horrific things that he's been through as a child and his mother's been through, and just the amount of people that just sat by and let it happen, I think that's probably the most disturbing part of the book, is just how many people could have intervened and could have helped him or could have saved him or, could have done all these things, but no one did. And he was just left to become this, he was preyed upon. And so he basically in turn did the same things that were done to him as a baby, as a toddler, as a kid. And so this book is just devastating. It's called The Enchanted, and it is really enchanting the way she tells it, because in his mind, he's kind of gone to another place to where he's not really living in the prison, where he's not witnessing all these horrific things that are going on around him as well, because his life is so tragic. So he's kind of just gone to another place. So, but this book, it is enchanting. It is just a nonstop. I couldn't put this book down. It was so good. With that being said, with the trauma, if you're going to read this book, you just better know that it is going to be probably the most heart-wrenching book you'll ever read. Unless you find a true story, then, that'll be it. But so last but not least is Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright. And for this book, this is in no way me telling you to go read this book. This is not a recommendation. I'm not saying I did somewhat enjoy this book because I was so curious about it that I had been wanting to read it for a while. And so I think that part was what really got me, was the curiosity that surrounds it. And I actually returned this book once, but I had thought about it so much and I really wanted to know how it ended, so I ended up buying it back again to listen to it. But this is about two serial killers who two gay serial killers who end up finding each other and end up finding solace together in doing what they love, is, killing and eating people. So this book was something else. I knew that it was going to be disgusting. I knew that there was going to be some really, disturbing detail, but I had no idea to what extent. There was a lot of butt eating in this book, wiener eating, like testicle chomping. I mean, this book, if anyone has imagined tearing someone apart and eating them, or drinking their blood, or like mushing around their insides, like, this book is just beyond. And not even like the physical part. The physical part is, don't get me wrong, that it is probably some of the most grotesque things I've ever experience, because you're not only experiencing it as someone who's watching it, but you're experiencing it as someone who's doing it, who's feeling it, who's tasting it, who's smelling it, who's enjoying it, who's savoring it. So this one was just, this one was literal nuts. So, but yeah, and I guess what's really kind of funny to me is the show, it's on Netflix. It's called Dahmer, and it's actually really good. It's about Jeffrey Dahmer, and a character in this book are like the same person. So when I'm watching that, and I had just finished the book, and I'm like, oh, this is too much. This is too much for me. But what I think one of the most disturbing parts of this book, and this is going to be a spoiler, but one of the most disturbing parts of this book is just the sadness in these people, not necessarily the serial killers, because they couldn't be more happy, but just their victims and the people they prey upon and their lifestyle and the sadness that's in them. And Tran, he's one of the main characters, one of the main victims, and his relationship with his dad, and then he gets HIV. He's such a young guy. There's a lot of young characters in this book that are HIV positive, and their life is just going downhill. And, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it to, to have a family or to be happy later in life. So that was a really sad part of the book. And then you have other families, and there was like two brothers fucking, I don't know. It was just too much. It was just a lot for this book. Like I said, this is by no means a recommendation. There's some parts in this book that are going to stick with me forever. This list is just, you can't read all these books in like even 1 year together because you'll be devastated and you'll just go into depression. So don't do that. But, you kind of nitpick here and there and, go with the flow. But so let me know in the comments if you agree with this list. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you plan on reading any of these books, and hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.